Hello, this is Robbie Mitchell here from Head in the Cloud Development to give you a quick demonstration of Head in the Cloud's SMS integration for NetSuite. This video is being recorded in October 2021 on NetSuite version 2021.2. Now in this day and age, you've probably experienced many business interactions over SMS. Appointment reminders, shipping notifications, customer satisfaction surveys, just to name a few. The possibilities are endless, and the goal of our integration is to support an endless list of SMS-enabled processes. How do we do this? Easy. We give you a few core building blocks so that you can tailor them to fit your specific business needs. We're happy to help you along the way, of course, but if you understand NetSuite workflows or scripting, you probably can do it yourself. Let's walk through a few examples so I can show you this tool in action. The examples we're going to look at here are sending an appointment reminder to a contact, enabling customers to approve quotes via SMS, sending SMS product shipment notifications, and bulk sending customer satisfaction surveys to a list of contacts. Let's get started so I can show you this tool in action. So here's my NetSuite account, and unlike my last SMS demonstration, this time we're going to start pretty much from scratch here. In other words, I haven't installed any bundles or set up any accounts yet here. I'm going to take you through setup to having working SMS automations in NetSuite, and you'll see how easy it is. First, let's install the bundle. Go to Customization, Suite Bundler, Search and Install Bundles. Type in Head in the Cloud. Now we're looking for this one, Bundle 349372, Head in the Cloud SMS Integration. Let's install it. This bundle will work for free for anyone for 30 days before requiring a license. Okay, now that'll take a few minutes, so let's move on and do the other part of the setup. The SMS service we use in our integration is Twilio, so head over to twilio.com and let's get started. So here we can set up a free account as well. Let's do that. I'll click Sign Up. And as I get started here, I'll mention that the Twilio site will likely grow and change over time, so don't be thrown off if when you come to do it, it looks slightly different. The overall process should be the same. They do require a really long and complex password here. So I'll go ahead and click to start my free trial. Now I have to verify my email address. And after I verify my email, next we need to verify a phone number. And this phone number is what your SMS messages will come to initially. I'm going to use my US phone number. For the Twilio product here, I'm going to select SMS. And for what plan, I'm going to say Alerts and Notifications. And I really don't think the answers matter too much here, but I'm going to say that I want to build with no code at all and explore what my team can build. And then click Get Started. Okay, so this is our Twilio account dashboard. This is where we control this Twilio project that we've just set up. As you can see, we get a trial balance of $15.50. That should be plenty. Now let's leave this here and switch back to NetSuite to see if the bundle is finished installing yet. Okay, the bundle just finished installing, and one thing I'll point out here is that the bundle includes a documentation PDF here that has the instructions for the setup that I'm doing right now. I'm going to go ahead and open it so we can follow along. So we just created our Twilio account, but we have not selected a phone number to send messages from yet. So basically we're on step 3F at the moment. So let's switch back to Twilio for just a minute and get our trial number. To do so, click this Get Trial Number button right in the middle of the console. Now if you don't like the number that they present you with, you can click this link to search for a different number. But this number is fine for me, so I'll click Choose this number. Okay, so now we're on step 4, configuring the integration in NetSuite. So let's do it. In NetSuite, we'll go to Setup, Integration, SMS Configuration, New. So the idea is you might end up having different SMS configurations for different subsidiaries or different departments that have different phone numbers that you're using. For this first one, I'm just going to name it after my subsidiary, Honeycomb Manufacturing. Now let's copy and paste in our Twilio account SID here. The from phone number is this trial number that you've just got. Now this default phone field determines which field in NetSuite the phone number is used from on contacts and customers. Contact records have both mobile phone and phone fields, and if you do actually distinguish between them, then you might want to change this to mobile phone. But I'm going to leave mine just set to phone. Next we need to copy in the authentication token from Twilio. When you tab out of this field, you should see the encoded auth token autofill here. This is because this record doesn't store your actual authorization token, but instead the encrypted GUID version of it. That way it's secure and nobody can read your token from this record. Now for this checkbox, by default we don't allow sending SMS from Sandbox or Release Preview. But if you do need to test in a sandbox, you can enable it here. Next we need to choose which file cabinet folder any images from multimedia messages will be stored in. In other words, if someone sends us a photo, where does it go in the file cabinet? I'm going to just have them go into my images folder, so that's ID -4. And this inbound reply text is what people will see after they send messages to your NetSuite account here. I'm just going to leave it as this default value and save. So that's it for setting up outbound messages. But before we start testing, let's go ahead and set up inbound messages as well. So we're moving on to step 6 in the instructions now. So we're going to go to Customization, Scripting, Scripts, and find the HITC Receive SMS Suitelet. Then let's go to the deployment of the Suitelet. And pause here for a second, and let's head back over to Twilio. Here, let's go to Phone Numbers, Manage, Active Numbers. And I'm going to click on the phone number that I have from my trial account. And what we're doing here is we're telling Twilio what to do when a message comes in from somebody out in the world. So scroll to the very bottom to the messaging area. First, let's cut this default URL and paste it into the field below for if the primary handler fails. Now let's switch back to the Suitelet deployment, copy the external URL here, and paste it in for when a message comes in. And an important note, we need to change this from HTTP post to HTTP get. Then click Save. Okay, we should be all set now. So let's try sending a message from NetSuite. Actually, first I want to show you one last thing here. Under Phone Numbers in Twilio, go to Verified Caller IDs. As long as we just have a Twilio demo account, we can only send messages to these phone numbers that we've verified. Once you upgrade to a paid account, you can obviously send to anyone. Now you can add additional phone numbers here, like if you have a colleague or someone that you want to help test. You just need to be ready to enter in the verification number that they send to that number. But for me, this just means that to test, I need to send messages to contacts in NetSuite that have my own phone number here. So let's try it out. I'm going to go to this contact, Aiden. Let's pretend that I have an appointment to meet with Aiden here at 11 o'clock. I can go to the Communication tab in the SMS message sublist to see any recent messages, or I can click New SMS to send him one. I'm just going to let him know that I'm still expecting to see him here at 11. I'll click Send. Now my phone just vibrated here, but I'm going to bring up my Google Voice account on the screen so you can see it for yourself. So here's the SMS that I just received. And now I'm going to reply to him confirming that I'll be there. Now when I reply, I should get this automated response that we set up in our configuration. Now let's say that back in NetSuite, I've continued to go about my day. On my dashboard, I can set up an SMS messages reminder here. I'm just going to type in SMS, and here it is. So this shows when I have an SMS message to process. When I say process, this might mean different things for different people. For me, it just means look at it and confirm that I've read it. Great, so I know that he's going to be here for his meeting, so I'm going to mark this as processed. Okay, so that's obviously the simplest scenario. Now let's look at something slightly more interesting. Let's say that I'm going to send a quote to a customer and I want them to be able to approve it by sending an SMS so that we can turn it into a sales order. To facilitate this process, I've started a quote send approval SMS workflow here, and we'll fill in the details now. This workflow just has one stage called send SMS, pretty self-explanatory so far. I'm just going to add an action here that'll handle sending out the SMS. So when I click New Action, you'll see that we have a HITC send SMS workflow action here. And one important thing, I'm going to change the trigger type from entry to after record submit because I want to include the quote number in the message, and the number doesn't exist until after the record has been saved. So here's what I'm going to put in the SMS message field. Much like in email or PDF templates, you can use this $ curly brace notation to include a field from the transaction. You'll see what this looks like when I show you an example here in a minute. And for who to send this to, I have a custom approving contact field on my quote, so I'm going to use that field ID here for the recipient. And just to make sure we select the right SMS profile, I'm going to set the subsidiary to that of the quote. So let's save this workflow action. And to demonstrate, I'm going to create a very simple quote for my Williams Wireless World customer. And conveniently, I'll point out that the contact on this customer has the same phone number as I do to allow testing. I'm going to create a quote. So as I'm creating my quote, I'm going to set Derek as the approving contact. I'm just going to add an item. And then I'll save it. And when I do, I should immediately receive an SMS as Derek letting me know to approve this quote. So check it out, here's the message I just received. And of course, if we take a look at the contact record, we should see it there on his communication tab log as well. And now what I need to set up is a way for Derek to approve this quote by replying with this text in a message. And to do that, I'm going to set up a simple user event script. And I'll mention that scripting isn't really necessary for this. You could do this with a workflow as well. But scripting is my preference because I think you get a bit more control that way. So here's the code for our user event script. This obviously isn't a scripting tutorial, but I will talk you through the highlights here. This script is deployed to SMS messages so that whenever a message comes in, this script runs. What we do is we read the message text, and we look at the direction of the message, and if it's an incoming message to NetSuite and it contains the word approve, then we keep looking to see if there's a quote number to approve. Also, for authentication, we check the contact who sent us this message to make sure it is that approving contact from the quote. If it is, then we approve the quote. If it is, then we go ahead and turn the quote into a sales order. And that's it. So now I'm just going to go into NetSuite and deploy this script to SMS messages so that we can try this out. I'm going to set it to execute as administrator. So now if I just send back this text, let's see what happens. Okay, my message was received. If I go back and look at the quote, now it has been processed into a sales order. Great. Okay, the next example here is an order shipment notification. First, I'll walk you through setting up the workflow, as it's just a little bit different than the last one. So again, I've started a workflow shell, but I don't have any details in it yet. Just like before, we have one send SMS state here. And again, I'll go ahead and add an action for sending an SMS. Just like before, I'm going to set the trigger on to after record submit, because again, I want to include information from this record. Now, instead of using the $ curly brace formula notation like I did last time, I'm going to paste a field directly into this formula field to show how that works as well. When you're doing a formula, you can use single quotes, and you can use this pipe n as a new line. And then to concatenate different strings together, you can use double pipe. So if I want to show the sales order this fulfillment was created from, I can do it like this. And obviously we can pop this out into its own little window to make it a bit easier to see. Now for this one, we want the message to go to the main entity from the transaction. So I'm just going to use the entity field. And again, we'll set the subsidiary, and then we'll save this action. Now let's fulfill an order. I'm going to fulfill this order for star structural. And when I save this, I should receive an SMS notification. Great, here it is, and we can see that my line breaks came in as expected. Very nice. Now let's do something else different. Let's say you want to bulk send an SMS to a whole bunch of people, perhaps for a customer satisfaction survey. Let's say that you've determined that the best way to reach everyone is by setting up a scheduled script with a saved search. Again, you could do this through a scheduled workflow, but I'm going to show you how to do it from a script so that you can see how to access the SMS Suitelet programmatically. First, I'll show you my saved search. It's very simple. My search is just a list of all my contacts whose name starts with A. It would probably be a good idea to filter out contacts who don't have a phone number, but I'm not going to bother with that because if the script finds one without a phone number, it'll skip them anyway. So I'll show you the code. As you can see, it's very short and sweet. It all fits on one screen. So here on line 18, we're looking up the URL for our SMS Suitelet. Then on line 19, we're running my saved search. And then for each result, we're sending them an SMS that thanks them for their business and asks them how likely they are to recommend us. The most important line, obviously, is down here on line 36, where we actually send the data to our SMS Suitelet. We've made this suitelet accessible to you so you can use it in any script in NetSuite. I have the parameters here listed right here in this comment. So now let's run it in NetSuite and see what happens. So obviously most of my numbers fail because they're not verified numbers. But look, one of them did certainly come through successfully. So we know that it's working as designed. And that concludes the demonstration. Again, the list of possibilities here is endless, and I hope you see now that anything is accomplishable with the SMS integration tools we give you in this bundle. Please get in touch if you have product feedback or if you're interested in this bundle. You can email us at gurus@headintheclouddev.com or contact us through our website at www.headintheclouddev.com. Thank you for watching. We'll see you at SuiteWorld.